Hi, everyone. It takes a minute for the hundreds of people that have registered to be able to hop on the webinar. So I'm just going to give a minute for people to start coming on live and with us tonight. It is going to be so cool. For those of you who made the time to be on here tonight, you will be grateful every day of your life from here forward. And you have a lot of friends that will probably be incredibly grateful as well. So I'm going to go ahead. We have most of the people funneled in. We're getting up to 200, 300. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest for tonight. You know me, I'm Kat Merritt with Revealed. And tonight we have with us an amazing guest that is going to do more for you tonight on this call. And I don't mean offer more for you to get later. I mean, do a lot for you on this call, especially in the times that we're in. And so I'd like to introduce Josh Trent.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Look at all these souls, 250 plus people here with us. Thank you,
How
Kat, for
great is
having me. This is
that?
going to be a special time.
Yeah, it's going to be so great. And I am so sad for the people for whom life happens. I've had stuff I really want to be on and stuff happens and you can't make it and you feel bad. But boy, for those of you who did, you are going to be so grateful. So tonight, as you know from the emails that you got and the sign up pages that you got, we're going to be talking about breathing, which just happens to be, the most important thing. like, food, water, money, but, being able to breathe first, right?
Yeah, without breath, what do we do? I mean, there's no greater thing that we'll dive into than our breath. It's the only automatic, autonomic thing for our nervous system that we actually have control over. So, in a world where we don't have control, we actually get to control it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's it. Here's the thing, and I don't know how deep you can skip right over this, Josh, if you want. But here's what's been profound to me in these times. We are dealing with a pandemic, an illness that people are afraid of because they can't breathe. Like they have problems with their lungs, they have problems with breathing. And then we rolled right into a crisis with George Floyd dying, not being able to breathe in a pandemic where we can't breathe. And now we have masks on our face, and my kids say, I can't breathe. And there's so much going on around emotionally, physically, psychologically being able to breathe. And so to physically breathe, I think, I mean, we're going to talk about all the things it does, but look at the importance of the time we're in and how being able to just control that part of us and get benefit from it. Have you been talking about some of these issues with your breathwork stuff?
More than ever. And, we've seen a surge of students because people don't want to be addicted to pharmaceuticals. Let's just hit the heart of the matter. When we're under stress, we need relief. Our body craves for it. So does our emotional and physical self. And so if we learn how to breathe properly, we can start to mitigate some of these really, really deleterious health pieces that we become prey to when we're stressed, especially when we're overstressed. And so, yeah, it's come up quite a bit. I've been doing a tour myself on many different larger podcasts to talk about the benefits of breath, but not in the esoteric sense, for the people like you and I that work everyday jobs and go out there and do a good load of work every single day. And we need tools that can take us out of stress right now. And unfortunately, we've seen so much of the narrative around pharmaceuticals. And so today I'm excited to bring a new angle into stress reduction that doesn't involve taking a pill.
So instead of popping the Ativan, or I'm trying to think of like drug Klonopin, right?
Sure.
There are immediate things that we can do. We have Dr. Debbie Silverman on. I don't know if you know that, Josh, but she's using her HeartMath EM wave to see what we do and how it affects her heart rate. So that's going to be really cool.
Wonderful. Welcome. Yes, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting the doctor yet, but hello.
Here we go. Gonna happen. There's a few people saying that they can't hear me, and I'm so sorry. There's other, Josh, you can hear me, our tech can hear me. I
I
have
can hear
other
you
people
great.
saying they
Yeah.
can hear me. So for those of you who can't, maybe Israel, who we have on tonight for support, maybe you can chat with them and see if you could help with some settings on their system.
It says Josh is softer, so I turned my volume up. Is that better, everyone? All right.
Yeah, mine. And for those of you who can't hear me, I'm full blast. If you need me to make mine a little quieter, that's cool.
Okay.
Get closer to your microphone, Josh.
So
Breathe in.
I mean, I'm right here, so maybe Israel. I turned my gain up a little bit, so everybody,
All
let
right.
me know. Is that better?
I think we're good. I
Okay,
think,
great.
oh, so now we have people Googling HeartMath wave. All right.
Okay, okay.
So let's start here. This is really cool because in this world where we kind of know each other and we bring in experts, so many people are like, this is my friend. But Josh actually is a friend. We've been involved in a couple of other projects. We've actually met through some other people and we keep kind of like circling into each other. And I've heard so much good about him. And I actually personally asked him to be available tonight for our Revealed Films audience because what he does is so crucial, so important. And to be able to handle stress, panic attacks, issues. I know even just basic box breathing has been like a godsend to me. So let's back up and tell us a little bit about who you are and how you ended up here.
Yeah, so 18 years ago, I started out on this journey of wellness, which is really this question I've always wondered. I didn't know how to articulate it back then, but now I know how to articulate it. And that is, how do I get a life of wellness? How do I understand what well-being is for me? And how do I get, this is the big thing, physical and emotional intelligence. And as you know, Kat, intelligence, it ain't how smart you are. Your intelligence,
Yeah.
especially my journey of the past 2 decades almost, has been how do I gather? How do I apply? And most importantly, how do I embody the lessons that I'm learning? And so, in a huge story that I can condense down, born to a situation where my mom struggled with a mental health disorder, bipolar. Dad left home when I was 2 months old. So, needless to say, I didn't really have the physical, spiritual, mental tools to properly deal with life. So, I found this drug called food.
So I'm interrupting you here. How
Oh,
long
yeah.
ago was this?
I was born in 1980. So, that's when it all
Okay.
started. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm 41.
Okay.
And then, to no surprise, without the tools, the proper tools that a lot of us really aren't gifted. I'm 22 years old. I'm 280 pounds. I'm in a job I hate. I was an automotive technician. I was in a relationship I didn't want to be in. It was like the universe, God, however you want to identify. Everything was pointing me towards get out. You need a big change. So it was like a sledgehammer moment. And,
Which is unusual actually for that age to have that much insight.
True. That's true. I didn't know that at the time. I think so many of us get caught up in these external locuses of control, which is shopping, drugs, porn, and food. And so I've had my battles in those, which many of us had. But, over the past 20 years since then, I've really found the key aspects that can downregulate the stress in our nervous system. And that's what led me to found Wellness Force in 2011. And, for the past, it's 10 years now, 6.5 years of podcasting, 400 episodes, 4 million downloads later, here I am. And I've just learned so many things that I embody myself and I'm still learning to embody that I'm stoked to share today.
Well, out of everything you've learned, why did you get really focused in on this breathing thing?
So I went down a path that a lot of people fall prey to, and that is if I just go to a psychedelic ceremony, then I'll somehow be healed. And what I found was the answers weren't there because psychedelics, and I'm not condoning the use of them or anti. I'm in the middle. I'm a libertarian when it comes to psychedelics, but I explored them so deeply that I was really looking for peace, and I couldn't find that peace by ingesting something or taking a psychedelic. I needed something a little more safer for my nervous system, and that's me specifically. And so if you look at the research on the rates of people that have psychic breaks from psychedelics, it's actually shockingly high. Now, breath is great because breath is free, breath is legal, breath is not going to hurt you. But you have to know how to do it properly so you can actually have catharsis. And we can talk about later on in our time the 3 phases of breath work and dive into the biological and the physiological things that happen. But what really interested me in breath was my inner child. my young man inside that we all have. Everyone has a young girl or a young boy inside of them.
Mhm.
And he needed peace. He needed to be held in a different way that only I believe the breath can offer.
Ooh, that's beautiful. I forgot completely what I was just going to ask you because that was so beautiful.
Well, you were
That,
asking me how I found it, and it really found me. There's a tattoo on my arm, Se posso respirare, posso scegliere. And in Italian, that means if I can breathe, I can choose. And really, it's tattooed on my arm. It got tattooed there in 2016, right before I did Mark Divine's Unbeatable Mind Retreat, where I laid on the floor and cried with Navy SEALs. Like, sometimes we can look back and our vision is perfect. We have 20/20 vision in reverse. I didn't know it at the time, but the breath was finding me. And I'm not some kind of spiritual babbling person. Like, I'm a really grounded person. But
yeah, you
truly, I
are.
feel like the breath found me because I had explored all these dark caves, Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey. And I really didn't find what I was looking for until the breath found me. And so that's what sparked the Breathe, Breath, and Wellness program. And, now teaching thousands of people across the world. And it's been profound in a way that I can't always describe with words, really. I think it's just something that you have to feel to understand it.
So I'm curious if people that are on, and we're almost 370, so I'm so excited to have this many people on for you. But if you will put in the chat what you would like to see breath help you with, is it anxiety? Is it coping? Is it concentration? Is it recovering from an illness? And I actually read an article, you can tell me about this, about really good breathing actually helps you if you should get the COVID to keep your lungs
Interesting.
healthy.
I could make some educated guesses, but I'm not a physician, so I definitely want to say
Okay.
that. But I
Okay.
could, if you'd like to go into that, we can now. I see a lot of people talking about recovery, settling my mind, helping with insomnia, endurance, yeah, all these things.
Yeah. So I
Overwhelm.
don't necessarily want to go into it now. I wanted you to be aware of some examples you could use or what you could go into, right?
Yes.
So here's you after doing this for years and years and years and years, and you're like, the Zen master of the breathing. And we're just coming into this. Like I'm kind of a noob, right? And we probably have people that are at varying stages. So where do we start? Tell us what's the most important things to know.
So I say that breath work, and I learned this from Dr. Belisa Vranich, who wrote Breathing for Warriors, as well as many of my mentors, Dan Brule, Niraj Naik, Gwen Payne, Anahata Ananda. Like, I traveled the world for 3+ years, and I was like, okay, what's the real deal? Like, what do we actually use for the everyday person where we don't want to go up on a cliff and wear a white cape? Nothing wrong with those people. It's just like not necessarily who all of us are. And what I found was that, like meditation, breath work is a skill that you cultivate over time. And unlike meditation, however, breath work is this active form of clearing your mind and centering your body. So it produces immediate feedback, which is different than sometimes loving kindness meditation or focused awareness meditation. Breath work specifically for all of us allows us to be still because we're focused on something. And we can explore the default mode network and what happens in our brain down into the nervous system and the enteric nervous system later on. But essentially, if you're a hard meditator, if you have trouble meditating, the best possible thing to do is first address your posture, address your breathing mechanics, how to properly breathe. And then next, the style or the technique of how you're breathing. And if you can do those three things, which I can talk deeply into, you do those three things and you will start to understand this art and science of what I call conscious controlled respiration, right? There's two types of breathing. One of them circle, one of them is box. It's really not that complicated, and it's free once you learn how to do it.
Okay. So you said first is posture. Tell me about that.
So with our posture and breathing, most people, we see a lot of catharsis breathing, which is actually the most advanced form of breathing. It's where we've all seen Wim Hof maybe, or we've seen Navy SEALs, or we've seen people breathing online. They lay on the ground and they're moving their whole body. It's actually not what we want to do.
Okay.
What we want to do is, and I'm sitting in a really special chair. I'm sitting in a meditation chair right now. If my camera could move, I'd show you. But I have my hips, my shoulders, and my head all stacked in a line, almost like you could put a ruler on my back. That is how you want to breathe. Now, you also want to sit in a chair or some kind of cushion where your kneecaps are just a little bit below your hip crease. Two reasons. Number one, it allows you to stack your spine easily. Number two, it allows your diaphragm and your abdominals to go in and out without restriction. So that's the first
So if your
thing.
knees are up, it's going to compress that your
Exactly. And
diaphragm.
especially for people that, we have a lot of people in the Breathe program that might be dealing with obesity or they're working on weight loss. Your belly will actually push into your legs if your hip crease is bent too much. So you have to open up your hips a little bit. You have to sit with your knees below your hips. What you can do is you can just put pillows on a chair. You can get a meditation chair. You can even do it kneeling as well. I have a lot of students that do breath work kneeling. So, and you can do it standing as well. But if you're standing, the key is to still stack your spine. I don't recommend people stand the very first time they do breathing. It's better to actually sit or kneel.
Okay.
But once we address the posture, then we can start working on the mechanics of breathing. And this is where, we really start to feel the breath.
Okay. So, especially as a younger woman, breathing, where your diaphragm is, that's a no-no because you got to suck your stomach in and breathe in your chest, right? So none of that. This is about breathing, right?
Yeah, well, you bring up an awesome point. We have been taught, and I was taught for a long time, and let us know in the comments if you feel this way too. We have all been taught to pull in our abdominals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was 280 pounds. People that deal with weight issues or maybe deep in the ancient brain, we are taught to pull in our abdominals because we don't want to be perceived as fat. So we actually develop, Kat, reverse breathing patterns from this, where instead of on the inhale, our belly going out, on the inhale for a lot of people that have been trained to pull in their abs, when they breathe in, their belly actually goes in, which is reverse pattern. And what that causes over time is carbon monoxide poisoning. The oxygen saturation in their body goes down. There's actually been a lot of scientific studies where people will wear O2 monitors on their finger, just like when you go to the hospital, right? And you're measured for O2 saturation. People that have reverse breathing patterns without knowing it, and this is the key. A lot of people have this reverse breathing pattern. They don't know they have it, because they've never known what it's like to really breathe properly. And they just assume, oh yeah, breathing's cool. I know how to breathe. And it's like, well, but are you actually measuring it? And do you really know the benefits and how it feels for you if you're breathing correctly and not breathing in reverse? So that's a big point you brought up because for a long time, even when I started breath work, I never really knew what it was, Kat, to breathe what I call 360 and to breathe what Lisa Vranich calls breathe horizontally. Most of us breathe up and down. We're built to breathe in and out. And that's a really big point of reference that we can talk about.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions. The question of the knees a little bit below your hip crease. What that means is you're not sitting with your legs straight out and then your legs down, right? You want your
Yes
to be just a little bit below where your hips are sitting.
Correct.
Yes?
And I love your visual.
Couple
So
inches.
think of this. This is my legs. This is my hips. All you want to do is just have your hips a little bit higher. That's it. So you're not here, you're just here.
Okay.
And what that does is you can think about, am I pinching a pencil in my hips? Well, I'm probably need to lower my knees. But if I can put a pencil in my hips and it'll roll down, I'm in a good place.
Okay. Got it. So that's posture.
Posture.
Okay. And then if you can breathe, is that what you said next?
Yeah, if you can breathe, you can choose. I said that in the beginning. But if you can breathe in that postural position, then you start to breathe actually into your kidneys. And this is a really cool point about physiology and breath. The diaphragm is this dome-shaped muscle in our solar plexus area, right below the xiphoid process. Think of it as a balloon.
Okay, so you just lost me.
Was that too much science?
You said right below the xiphoid process, which is not helpful.
That little part, that little part where your ribs connect and it almost looks like there's a little lip right there.
Yeah. Okay.
So right there in that solar plexus, and if you're Eastern minded, I have a chakra system behind me, right? Your solar plexus chakra. Okay. In the West, we call it energy. And so that's actually where your diaphragm is situated in this dome-shaped piece. But most people don't realize that the diaphragm actually goes all the way around your body in a circle. So it's not like the diaphragm just sits on the front of your body. The diaphragm goes all the way around. And actually, when I teach students, I teach them to breathe into their kidneys, which is a little crazy, but a little cool, kind of fun. So you breathe into your kidneys and you breathe into your belly button so that you can actually feel what it's like to breathe out like animals do. Everybody's been to the zoo, or maybe if you haven't, you've seen nature documentaries or just look in, the forest where you live. Every animal breathes horizontally. Well, guess what, Kat? We're still animals. We're just very evolved animals. We're not too far away from, the chromosomes that we had as ancient people 250,000 years ago. So the second thing is breathing mechanics. And so in the program and on all the things that I talk about, it's intercostals, it's our multifidus, it's our transverse abdominis. It's essentially the corset. We all have a corset, like those old school corsets from the Western times. They don't look very comfortable, but we have an internal corset, and that internal corset, those musculatures help us to breathe. Actually, the intercostals are the muscles between our ribs. And those intercostals, if they're trained properly by doing side iso abs and different stretches, that actually can open up breathing pathways for you. But what's really cool, and this is another thing that most people don't know, is most people have tight scalenes and sternocleidomastoid muscles, neck muscles. Okay. And also most people, because of our lives, Kat, we're forward flexed, we're on the phone, we're on the computer, we're driving. Everybody's chest, their pec minor and pec major is really tight and we're leaning forward. And so what I talk about in the program and online is like, we need to open up our pectoralis. We need to open up our chest so we can actually unlock and stretch our neck and unlock the breathing mechanics that nature intended us to have. And so when we breathe, we actually want to breathe through our nose on the inhale, and we want to breathe through our mouth on the exhale. And this is another fun point, and feel free to cut me off if I'm going off here. But
no, I was just going to say, why?
This is really the reason why we do that is because, and I'll give an example because I think we all can understand metaphors. If you plug a baby's nose, I just had a son, he's 2 months old. If you plug a baby's nose at birth, the baby will start to choke. Now, why is that? Why is it that a baby, if you plug their nose, they start to choke? It's because they were physiologically brought into the earth with this innate, powerful intelligence to breathe through their nose. We are not born as mouth breathers. We're born as nose breathers. We have these spherical cores in our nose that both treat and condition the air, which sets it up for us to breathe it in. But most of us, we learn this somewhere between age, 1 to 7. And we actually get it modeled from our parents, Kat, by the stress they go through. And I'm not trying to diss any parents. Every parent does the best they can. But we learn to close our mouths when we're scared because it's modeled to us by our parents. And the one thing I'll say with that is you can retrain it by unlocking the jaw, unlocking the neck, opening up the chest, and learning how to actually breathe 360 through your diaphragm and belly again. And so that satisfies that second component, which is learning how to breathe properly, understanding your muscles and really breathing the way that nature intended you to breathe.
So what's the craziest? I want to know the craziest breathing you've done that actually works and why. And I also want to know what's the craziest result you've gotten for someone just through breathing. And then let's go back and then I want to know, kind of open up my mind a little bit. Yeah. And then let's go back and start walking this group through the basics.
Sure. And I saw someone in the comments here. There's a lot of great comments coming through. And I want you to know, whether you're a science-minded person or whether you're more of a spiritual person, the words don't matter about what I use, right? So this isn't really, yes, it's an esoteric study, but it's more grounded in science of a study when it comes to the breath. So just bear with us here because, your question's a big one. And you said, what's the craziest breath you've ever done? The craziest breath I ever did was actually in Thailand. It was an island called Koh Phangan. It's off the coast of Thailand. And I did this 30-day intensive where I learned how to take people through this soma practice, which I think is good, but I don't think it's for everyone. Well, anyways, after about 3 hours of doing box and circle and breath hold retentions on the exhale, so you can really ground in, breath hold retentions on the inhale, so you can bring up whatever emotions your body's stored. I actually had an experience where I was out of body and I was looking at myself and I was like, wow, this is interesting. I don't know how I'm going to explain this to people because people are going to be like, did you do a bunch of drugs? And I'm like, no, this is drug free. There's no drugs involved. And I saw myself and I was actually able to give myself compassion for what I was doing, which was I was just seeking peace. And this is about 3 years ago. And I was able to actually, for one of the first times in my life, truly see myself for just the curious wellness person that I am and really understanding what it is to be intelligent. Sometimes we have to step outside of ourselves through a catharsis breathwork session to really see oh, I'm doing such a great job Like I deserve credit. I deserve love. I deserve compassion for myself. It's cool because I was able to see that. And so that was a big one. That was
Okay,
almost
so
a 3 hour session.
before you move, so that's so cool. And I have read and heard from many people that they've had psychedelic type experiences, some even more profound with breath work. But you
Yeah.
talked about catharsis breathing. What does that mean?
So catharsis breathing is actually the final phase of breath work. The two
Okay.
before it. So think of catharsis as a release of energy that feels healing or relieves pressure or stress,
Okay.
right? And we all know that it might be cathartic to graduate high school and then move on to the next threshold in life. Or some of us go through a divorce, and there's a healing, there's a catharsis that happens there from like an emotional intelligence perspective. So catharsis breathing you can only do in longer styled breathing sessions. I mean, we're talking like 30, 60, maybe even 90 minutes of breathing. So that's catharsis. It's more of an energetic or an emotional release, but catharsis typically, not all the time, but typically happens in longer sessions.
Okay. Okay. Now, the coolest, like most amazing result or odd, craziest that you've gotten working with someone breathing.
So I have a VIP day that I don't advertise, but when I get to know clients and I feel like it's important for them to come, I live in Austin, and so I'll take people through cold therapy and then heat shock proteins in the sauna, and then I also have a healing mat here from Higher Dose, and I take them through all three of those tools. And then I take them through a catharsis breathing session. And I had a gentleman here, and I'm gonna obviously let's just call him Stan because I'm not going to use his real name,
Okay.
but he's in the process of going through divorce, and he was able to see after cleaning out his system with the hot and the cold, getting some restorative from the PF on my mat, and then really doing a 30 almost 40 actually 40-minute catharsis session where I intuitively know based on what I'm seeing with the client, their belly, if they're getting stuck in their chest, when they do need to pause, when they do need to hold their breath. He had such a big release that he sat here in my studio. This is where I do my sessions. And he just journaled for almost, it felt like 40 minutes. It was probably more like 20 minutes. But this guy he put his pen to paper and he wrote everything. And when he shared with me after the session, he was like, wow, I can actually see that this divorce is the best possible thing that could ever happen to me. And he just broke down, and like tears were literally hitting the pad. And for me, it was hard for me not to cry because I'm a HSP. Like I feel people. And it was so profound for him because I don't know, his ego, and we can talk about this with the default mode network. Our ego and our ancient brain always sees threats as something that's going to kill us. And it
Mhm.
could be a partner leaving us or an accident or somebody cutting us off. Our ancient brain sees it as the same thing. And so that was really profound, was taking him through that process. I mean, obviously I had a pediatrician that wrote in. I actually have it right here. That was the biggest one. But another one, a student that just took the program online, she said, I'm in day 8 of the program. I'm a pediatrician. And over many years of training, there's always been a training schedule to follow. Focusing on my breathing is the key for me to settle the monkey mind that has distracted me on so many other attempts. Just want to let you know and share my thoughts. Thank you for putting this program out. So it's this monkey mind that wants to get away from pain, that wants to get away from threat that we universally deal with as human beings. I mean, we all deal with the same stuff. But that's what the breath can do, is it can offer us a mental reframe, and it can offer us the truth about what's really happening. And it could either be esoteric or it could just be grounded and practical. Like, okay, I have discernment. I understand that this is really happening for me. I'm not bypassing it. I'm not waving a woo-woo flag over it. I really have greater clarity on what happened because we turned down the volume cat in our default mode network. And this is a really big one. I'll pause there, but basically, like, we're actually physiologically changing the way we perceive something through the breath. And that can be the most powerful reframe for people ever.
So it sounds like there's not much. I mean, of course, there's other things we need to do, but there's not much in terms of stress, sleep, processing emotional stuff. Because I've been told my whole life and truly believe we hold emotions in our body. And it sounds like that
Yeah.
the breathing allows us to release in a way that we can cope with.
Yes. And this is actually really important. I don't actually take people through cathartic journeys in Breathe. I only do that in person. Number one, I care. I don't want people to hurt themselves or have a memory or something come up that they can't process, because that can actually hurt them more. So
Wow.
this what I do, and what our community is all about isn't about you laying on the floor and breathing like a hippopotamus for 40 minutes. Like, we're really trying to get you to a place where you can learn the fundamentals and the skills, where then if you want to graduate to that third phase, right? First is our acute breathing, second is our meditative breathing, and then that last phase is our catharsis breathing. It's really important that people take themselves through that step by step by step. What was your question again? Because I was visualizing something cool when I was talking to you, but I forgot what you
I don't
asked.
remember.
It was something. It was something
Oh,
about.
about being able to release, like we hold
Yes, yes,
trauma, feelings,
yeah,
emotions, trauma
we
in our
do.
body.
Yeah,
And finding peace is a way to release that in a non-traumatic way,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
it sounds like breath work helps us restore, balance to the body and to be able to release some of that stuff we've been holding on to.
Right. You even did a perfect thing. You held up your fist and you tightened it. That is actually that mechanism of tension. We have on our brainstem, we have afferent and efferent nerves. And if you go back to like biology 101 in college or something, everybody knows there's a signal that comes from the brain and comes back to it. Well, that signal that comes back is based on what's called synergy. And so when we have synergy in our body that's locked up, in other words, if we have a system that's supposed to be loose and that system is now tight, our brain gets the wrong message back. Our brain gets an improper message. So the brain keeps sending the signals to our diaphragm and our enteric nervous system and our basically our autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest, which we've heard a lot about in science. The brain doesn't receive the messages back. So the system of checks and balances within the body, it needs something a little more intense and a little more proactive so it can fix itself. The body is the most powerful self-healing mechanism in the world. But the thing is we have to turn off our thoughts sometimes so we can like release the grip that you showed us in order for us to start to feel and process and have the skills within ourselves to let go of these things that are literally killing us. I'm not here to scare people, but when we're not breathing, we actually can shift ourselves into this sympathetic state in our nervous system. And for some people, it happens in a year, Kat. For some people, it happens over the course of 10 years. And we're talking carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide in the house and carbon dioxide that we breathe because we don't have enough oxygen coming through. It's actually the same response in our body. I'm not saying our body creates carbon monoxide. I'm just giving an example there. If you're
Yeah,
choking in your house because you don't have enough oxygen, well, you're choking outside in nature because you're not breathing right. I mean, it's essentially the same thing.
got it. So we have a question because you talked about trauma. Can it be can you release trauma over time breathing, or does it only always take place in the cathartic breathing?
I've had a lot of people, myself included, we have 7-minute practices and 21-minute practices that in the program. I've had a lot of people that they'll just be crying, but they won't know why. So they'll emote, or it's a really big one too, relaxing the jaw. And we go over this in the program. So when you're relaxing your jaw, you start to yawn. And if you look in nature, because we are nature, we yawn when we want to release stress. And so a lot of people in even a 7-minute practice, specifically like a box breathing practice, they'll start to release just yawning tension and jaw tension. And maybe they'll have little breakthroughs come in about, yesterday when I yelled at my husband or I yelled at my wife, like, that actually wasn't very loving, and sometimes these breakthroughs, these pieces can come in when we release the stress we have these pockets of stress, pockets in the jaw, pockets in the pectoralis, pockets in our abdominals. So unless we actually like move the blood through these tissues, through the art of the breath, it can be really challenging to release this stuck energy. But trauma, yes, trauma can be released on a daily basis. You do not have to do this catharsis breathing to release trauma. And actually for some people, Kat, I would suggest that they really master the other two phases of breathing first before they ever go to a catharsis session. It's kind of like an astronaut. You wouldn't tell an astronaut with no training to blast off into outer
Right.
space. That wouldn't be very responsible. So it's the same thing when it comes to the breath.
What's the biggest resistance that you resistance from people that you get for not wanting to engage in this?
Most people are so caught up in their logical mind that they think they're breathing correctly anyways.
Defensiveness, right?
You-
I know
def-
how to breathe. I'm alive.
right. And so I would just say this, if you, and we can do this right now if it's applicable, but if you don't know what it's like to truly take a horizontal belly kidney breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, without the presence of your thoughts racing around, then you don't know how to breathe properly.
Okay, then let's
I'll,
get it done. Let's
I'll
go.
just say that. So everybody sit where you are, put
Okay.
your head and your shoulders and your spine in a nice upright position, and just close your eyes for a second. This will just take us maybe 2 minutes together. Close your eyes, roll your neck around, go clockwise and then go counterclockwise 3 times. And just start getting used to breathing in through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. Let's go the other way. Now I want you to just breathe normally. You can keep your eyes open or eyes closed, no judgment either way. Take both your hands, put one hand on your heart, put one hand on your stomach. And I want you just 3 times, just breathe in through your nose. See if you can relax your jaw, open and close your mouth, maybe rub your jaw for a second. Just let your jaw hang open a little bit. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. And when you breathe in through your nose, I want you to imagine that you're filling in a balloon. So as your nose breathes in, fill a balloon, let your belly get open and wide, and then exhale through your mouth. Let your belly come in. Let's do that 2 more times. Visualize a balloon on the back of your belly button and fill that balloon. Now what I want you to do is continue to breathe with your eyes open or closed. And I want you to imagine that you have someone you love pushing down on your shoulders. They're pushing down on your traps. And when we do these 6 breaths together, take what you learned in the 3, apply them to the 6. Don't let your shoulders go up and down. I want you to just relax your shoulders, pull your shoulders down, and let's breathe in through our nose, out through our mouth, 6 times in a circle without pausing. And I want you to notice where your mind goes, and I want you to do your very best to just let go of everything you're thinking. So let's begin with an exhale. Close your eyes and fill your belly. Inhale through your nose. Big inhale through your nose. Exhale, audible sound. And just go back to your normal breathing. That's your primer for any other breath you might do. Maybe some people with us got tingly just from doing that. Just focus on your breathing now. You know, feel what it's like to fill a belly button that has a balloon behind it. So let the balloon behind your belly expand. And when you let your stress go, make an audible sound when you do it. Doing 6 of those is a great primer for then doing it 21 and then doing our box breathing, which we talk about deep in the program, and then also learning how to do breath hold retention. Breath hold retention is where you really get to be friends with your stress because you've reoxygenated your system. What we're doing, Kat, when we do that circular is we're giving ourselves a bathing of more oxygen than we normally do. Most people are breathing like this. But when we with no pause, we're super oxygenating our system. We're getting more oxygen than we normally do. And so
Yeah, I think that's why I got a little tingly. Put in the chat what you experienced. And I think, like you said, filling a balloon behind your belly button, because people say breathe with your diaphragm. But
what does that mean?
Yeah. What does that mean?
Fill a belly button.
Yeah. I'm in my head all day. And I very rarely focus on my body. And what I noticed is that I was really in tune with my body. And Kimberly's, I did get tingly. I saw somebody got dizzy.
Yeah.
Have you had anyone pass out? That's a good question.
I haven't, because I always tell students, when you start to feel faint, you're actually going too hard. And this is counterintuitive to most breathwork practitioners. They'll just say, get in the breath as much as you can. It's like, not really. Because you really want to trust the intuition of your body. You don't want to push yourself too hard. We push ourselves so hard in life, Kat. You and I both, like, we achieve things, right? And a lot of people on this call, we're achievers. you don't want to achieve in the breath. You're not trying to achieve something. You're trying to let go of achieving. But we apply this logical Western mind to like, I need to breathe as hard as I can. It's like, no, you don't.
Like a
You actually,
contest.
yeah, it's like, oh, well, if breathing for 5 minutes is good, I'm going to breathe for 20. If doing cold therapy is good for 3 minutes, I'm going to sit in there for 10 minutes. It's like, you guys, we're relax here. Like we're trying to actually go more to the parasympathetic, the rest and digest. We're not trying to breathe
Your,
as much as we
your
can.
body knows what to do if
Your
you
body knows what to do and
give
your
it
body
what it
keeps the
needs,
score.
right?
Yeah. Your body keeps the score too. And it's not just Bessel van der Kolk's book. It's real. Like when we push ourselves, when we have a life of pushing ourselves, the last thing we want to try to do is push ourselves heavy in the breath.
That's really, really cool. So what else coming into this? So that was like really cool to do that you circle breathing.
That one skill of circular breathing, if anyone is feeling depressed, that's a really good one. I didn't say anxiety because remember, depression is a focus on the past. Anxiety is a focus on the future. So the circle brings the energy that's stuck up. And the box, which I can take us through, the box is actually something that grounds us in. It calms us down. So the box gets us out of the future. The circle gets us out of the past. That's the best way I can describe this.
So good. That's so good. And, I've dealt with depression and anxiety in my life.
Me too.
More in the past. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
But depression is a focus on the past, and anxiety is an obsession about the future. And I don't know why no one's ever told me that before.
I think, and that's actually, you know what? Total exclusive. I have never, ever taught it like that before. It over the course of these 4 years now, I'm like, what's the most simplistic way I can describe it to us here, to the 400 plus people? It's like, that's it. The circle allows us to express. Opposite of depression is expression. Mm-hmm. The square allows us to ground in. And so that I need to update some of our course materials now to make it even simpler.
No, seriously, it clicked for me. Yeah. And I've dealt with both, and it so simplistically locked it in and categorized it for me. We have a question about why you breathe in through the nose and exhale through the mouth.
That's wonderful. So two things. The science behind when we breathe in through the nose is when we do this, it's actually a sympathetic activity. So it's where we activate a stress response. But when we breathe out, we're parasympathetic. So we have these nerve bundles that are in the sinus cavity. And I know this because I'm so glad I remember to share this. For 20 plus years of my life, I couldn't breathe. I had chronic sinusitis. I had tons of surgeries. I was 17 years old, Kat. I had to get lasers put up my nose. I mean, it was traumatic. And so I just didn't know how to breathe for a long time. And so, in my late 30s, when I found the breath, I started to just make this mind to muscle connection that sparked me to do more scientific research. And what I found was actually from Dan Brule. He's the proponent of breath mastery. He learned from Leonard Orr, who's the father of breath work. 40 years he's been in this space. And something that he found in his research, and we're finding all over the place, is that you actually have air that's pulled up through your nose and it's spiraled. We have these what's called spherical cores inside of our nose. So when we're pulling in the air, it's treating it and it's conditioning it to go down into our lungs, to be fed properly to our lungs. And the reason we breathe in all programs, some programs they focus on mouth breathing. I really like to teach people how to breathe through the nose again, because as I made that metaphor with the baby, it's really important for us to learn how to breathe through our nose as adults, because we're still a child in some ways and we need to connect with that child. So we do that so we can process our stress. So first, we can actually know that we're stressed out. If we're not breathing through our nose, how do we ever even know we're stressed? Because we're just like mouth breathing. We don't
Someone
ever actually...
in the chat said, isn't that interesting that a derogatory term is mouth breather?
Yes. So we inhale specifically through, and you can do 2-2, which is 2 inhale, 2 exhale. You can also do 2-4. Someone had a question about that. If you want to really down-regulate the system so it can be more relaxed, the stress system, extend your exhale and give an auditory signal from your voice box to the exhale. So it's about, that's why we really want to take our time with the exhale, because there's a couple neurological processes that are going on. Number one, you're getting that sound. Whenever we're singing to ourselves or we're singing, we're in more harmony, we're in more joy. You don't need a scientist to tell you that. When we're exhaling longer, we're stoking that parasympathetic response longer. But it's really key though, and I want to point this out, like whether it's 2-2 or 2-4 pacing, it's really important to do that full inhale through the nose. Because if you don't do the full inhale through the nose, you're never going to activate that stress response in your body, and you're never going to know that you're stressed. You could actually be hiding your stress from yourself, from your subconscious mind. So it's really important to breathe in through the nose and exhale through the mouth.
Okay. Because, you get told that, but it's so great to have you here because you can explain why.
Yeah.
And so now let's peel it back another layer of simple. You talk parasympathetic, sympathetic. What's the difference?
We don't blink our own eyes. Sometimes we're conscious of that, but we don't digest our own food, right? We don't beat our own heart unless you're like a Shaolin monk. I think they can do that, but most of us aren't Shaolin monks. And if there's a Shaolin monk here, I'm sorry. We have these processes.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you can teach us. But we have this process in our body. It's called the autonomic nervous system process. And a lot of what happens with our heart rate and with our digestion and with our, cellular osmosis and everything that's going on in our body, it happens autonomically or automatically. And so breath is both autonomic and voluntary. And this is really cool. It's truly, I've been saying this for years, it's the only e-brake we can pull on our nervous system. We can't beat our own heart faster. We can't digest our food faster. We can't pump our blood faster. Like breath, it's truly the only e-brake, the only lever for our autonomic or our automatic nervous system that we can do to reduce our stress or reduce how we're experiencing the stress. And so in this ANS, which is short for autonomic nervous system, ANS is inside of the CNS. CNS is our central nervous system. That's the entire nervous system. Okay. On one side, we have that parasympathetic branch that controls our digestion. It also controls the way that we breathe. We also have the sympathetic side, which is like when we're being chased by a tiger or when we're fighting with our spouse. It's exactly the same thing. Our nervous system experiences it as exactly the same thing, unfortunately, but also fortunately, because when we use our breath, and there's a couple more things, and if I'm too sciencey, you let me know, like we have actually 4 diaphragms in our body. Most people think that we have one right here. We have a diaphragm in our pelvic floor. We have one right here in our solar plexus. We have a cervical diaphragm, and we also have a cranial diaphragm. So these 4 diaphragms that are in the body, if we're learning how to pump our blood and how to do this circular and box breathing, we're going to get better circulation throughout the entire system, which then allows more detoxification and allows greater wellness and greater health. But it's not something that people think about because they're like, oh yeah, my diaphragm is right here. But you actually have 4 diaphragms, which is really fascinating. So it's a long answer to your short question. The 2 sides of the nervous system, one of them is for us to rest. One of them is for us to run or to fight. Unfortunately, especially now, going back to what you talked about at the beginning of this talk, this interview, like most of us are pretty much, I would say 20 hours or more in that sympathetic branch, whether it's a news media, whether it's our cell phone where we're getting accosted, whether it's traffic or people or responsibilities. Like we just need to learn how to breathe. We need to learn how to pull this e-brake so we can address the acute stressors. We need to learn how to clean ourselves by doing meditative breathing. And then we need to eventually graduate to the catharsis, which is where the deeper trauma is. But,
cool. So what's the difference between meditation and meditative breathing?
Meditation, some meditations like loving kindness meditation, or I did a Vipassana, which is and if anybody's done this, let me know. It's no joke. Vipassana meditation is when you go, I went out into the desert and it was Goenka's meditation, and you actually just focus on the sensation of breathing for 10 days. I mean, all you do from 4 a.m. to like 9 at night is you meditate, Kat. And they don't do breath work in Vipassana, but I started, and that was in 2016, 2015, 2016. And that's when I started to really realize, wow, I hold my breath. I really don't know how to meditate because I believe the precursor to meditation is breath awareness. Most people meditate, but they don't have the awareness that they're holding their breath or even that they need to breathe during meditation. Because a lot of the esoteric babble out there when it comes to meditation is like, just be with what is, just be in the stillness. And people don't know what that means. People don't know how to do that because it's just not.
If I did, I wouldn't need to meditate.
Exactly. So the difference between breathing meditation and meditation is when you do a breathing meditation, like we have 21-minute breathing meditations that we do, and we're doing a combination of box and circle breathing. But I guide people through it because when you're focused on one thing, like breathing, you turn down the volume on your default mode network. And this is Michael Pollan's work talks about this. We talk about it in the program. We have our PFC, we have our posterior cingulate, and we have our amygdala. There's like the three big parts of our system. And when you do breath work, your body actually gets to focus on just doing one thing. Because when you're focused on your breathing, you don't have to worry about where your mind's going. So when you're focused on meditation breathing, all you're doing is focusing on your breathing. And before you know it, you start breathing automatically and your mind clears itself. So like I said in the beginning, much like meditation, breath work is a skill that you cultivate over time. But I have found time and time again, even the testimonial that I read from our pediatrician, sometimes the worst thing you can do if you're already stressed out and you don't know how to breathe is sit and meditate. It's like the worst thing you could do, because all it's going to remind you of is that you're a poor meditator. So when you're aware of your breath and you're doing these breathing meditations, you can actually start to reconnect with yourself, and you can calm your own mind without trying to calm your mind. That's the key difference.
Yeah, if you're trying to calm your mind's not calm. Like the only person who's trying to calm their mind is one who doesn't have a calm mind. Like that, it doesn't work.
Yes. Yes.
And so I get it. Okay. So I want to be able to do some box breathing. How long would you say that would take us?
Why don't we do 3 rounds?
Okay.
And the best way that I can say this is we're going to build on what we already did. And what I want to focus on is anybody that's doing this, please, if you notice yourself judging yourself for like not doing it right or not doing perfect, can you just like love that part of yourself and just let it go? Like, don't get into a shame spiral here. So again, hand on your heart, hand on your belly, and just sit in that stacked spine position that we practiced earlier. And this is a good time to check in. Are your knees below your hips? Wherever you're seated, a good way to do this is just to stack pillows underneath your butt. And what we're going to do is we're going to breathe like a box. And here, I'll show you with my hands. We're going to inhale through our nose for 5. We're going to hold for 5. We're going to exhale through our mouth for 5. And then we're going to hold for 5. We're going to do that 3 times. So we're going to do a total of 15 things. And the whole time, what I want you guys to do is just think about how much richness can I breathe in through my nose? That's all I want you to focus on. The exhale is going to happen on its own. Okay. So first, let's start with the exhale. I'll guide you through it. So exhale all your breath. Inhale through your nose for 5. Hold for 5. Exhale audible for 5. Hold for 5. Inhale rich through your nose for 5. Hold for 5. Audible exhale 5. Hold for 5. Let's go one more. Inhale through your nose, rich for 5. Hold for 5. Really deep exhale for 5. Hold for 5. Let your chin drop to your chest. And when you're ready to breathe again, just slowly bring your head up and just breathe normally. Just breathe normally. Don't worry about anything. Breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. And just notice how just doing that 3 times, imagine if you did it 6 times, 7 times, would ground you to wherever you are. Like that's really the components of circle and box. The breath hold retentions are something that I like to guide people through in a deeper basis, and that's more in the program. But those 2 components, the circle to get you out of depression, the box to get you here and out of the future. It's really big. I mean, maybe people just felt, yes, count of 5, Cheryl. It's normal to get a slight headache, but I would actually challenge you to say you probably already had a headache. You just weren't aware of it yet. That was V that asked that. I would tune in like how much caffeine you're having and whatnot. But Kat, what we just did, you know, the 5 count, you can extend it. You can go 6 and 7. The breath is yours. Once you learn the fundamentals of breath, you tweak it. You make it your own practice.
Yeah, I've noticed if I'm stressed about something and I just start box breathing,
Yeah.
pretty soon it's like, oh,
Not that
everything's
bad no more.
fine.
Yeah, not that
Yeah.
bad anymore. Because it,
Yeah.
it gets us out. I mean, there's so many cool things. Like it gets us out of that monkey mind. It turns down the volume on that default mode network. And I didn't talk about this, but default mode network is what searches for danger when you're doing one task. So the default mode network is left over from back in the day when we were out in nature and a tiger might be around. We had to be focused on our surroundings, but we're not built. We're built that way, but we're not in that world anymore. Like this is not the world we live in. But yet our ancient brain, our default mode network, and those 3 components, like they take over. They take over. But the breath, specifically what you and I just did with the box breathing, and also our breath hold retentions, which is where on the exhale we actually hold our breath and we challenge ourselves to continue to hold our breath combined with the box in the circle. That has been shown both in science, anecdotally from my own experience, from the thousands of students in Breathe, that it not only gives you greater attention and greater presence, but it just gets you out of the past and out of the future. So you can just be right here. And we got a little taste of that now.
So that's really cool. So do you care if we transition into the questions?
No, that's great. I saw Jacqueline asked one. I don't want to
Yeah.
take over, but that's a really
Oh,
good
go,
one.
you go.
Okay, so Jacqueline said, I have trouble breathing in even for the count of 5. Not sure why. Like I can't feel my lungs. Jacqueline, what I'm going to say is, and I'm not going to promote any products, but I use essential oils and I also use nasal inhalers. And the reason I do that is because I am constantly focused on my sinus health. If you can't breathe in, you may have a deviated septum. You know, obviously you have to have your physician. I'm not a physician, so you have to have your physician deal with that. But a good way to know if you have a deviated septum, if you plug one side of your nose and you can't breathe out the other side, you most likely have a deviated septum. It doesn't always have to be this physical thing on your face that's twisted. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you might just be congested. You know, a lot of people, unfortunately, have been taught to stay in their homes and, you know, stay put. That's actually not the case. That hurts us tremendously because when we go out into the world, we actually breathe the biome of all the plants, the animals, and the trees and everything. And that's healthy for our nose. So I would say sinus sprays, oils. We talk about this in the program. Also to understand how to, there is certain taping that you can do where you can tape your nose up. There's certain nasal strips. There's certain practices to clear your sinuses. Also, some people have plugged ears. The ears and the sinuses are connected. So that's a really big piece to consider. If you're not able to do a nasal breath, it might be anatomical or a biological thing, or it just might be that you don't know how to do it because you haven't practiced it. So it's one of the two.
Okay, cool. So before we get into more questions, as I told the people on all of you here tonight, I asked Josh to be here because what he's done is so valuable and has helped me and some of my dear friends with what he knows and what he does. And so I asked him to make his program available to you guys on a super special deal. And he actually did me about $600 better than I asked for. So if Israel, if you can put the link in the chat, Josh, tell us a little bit about what you're doing for the Revealed Films community.
Yeah, so I thought about where people really are right now and what is their deepest stress, deepest pain. And a lot of the questions that we've had fielded, Kat, like it just points right to what I was feeling. And that is most people don't even know that they don't know that there's just ways their breath could unlock stress. And so if this program was built to be a 3-week container or a 3-week process, it's literally step by step. It guides you through the 3 phases that we've talked about. We go over the anatomy and physiology. We go over the posture. We go over the breathing muscles. We take care of all the fundamentals that you might not get if you just went to a weekend workshop. And so for pretty much the same or less as going to a weekend workshop, you're going to get a experience of this 3-week process that you can get on your phone, on your desktop, on any device. and you'll be able to go back to it for a refresher whenever you need it. There's breathing meditations in there that are 7 minutes long, 21 minutes long. There's also some really cool bonuses that I gave because I thought, I've been working on a lot of binaural beat meditations. Binaural beats are really fascinating. A binaural beat is this illusion that's created by your brain when you listen to two tones at once. And so I worked with my audio engineer and we created some really beautiful guided meditations through breathing. And that's also included as a bonus. I haven't given that to any groups yet at all. I'm literally just like giving it to Revealed, which is really cool. And then also as a bonus included with the 3-week program is if you ever want to work with me one-on-one, just for this audience only, I'm going to do half off of any solo session that you might want to have with me. And that also includes VIP days if you want to come out and work with me one-on-one in Austin.
That's amazing.
So, yeah. And I really wanted to just give because I feel like, I'm in a really good place now where I understand how many people this has helped. And I'm not trying to just make a bunch of money. I'm really trying to be of service because I found like, man, when we're just wanting to be of service, like the universe provides, the universe really provides. And I trust in that. So, so that is what I'm offering to the Revealed Films.
So your 21-day, and it's not just available for 21 days. You guide us through.
No, you get it for life. Yeah, you get it for life.
Right?
You always get we always update every quarter. We put a new video or two in there too. So you get a lifetime updates in that. There's an app. It's through Kajabi. You just literally go to the app. It's there for you. You can download the MP4s or the MP3s if you want to save them. Like if you want to go camping and do them camping. But there's also like an app you can use, and you can just use it anywhere at any time. So it's lifetime access. And no, it's not. Someone asked, is it for 21? No, you get it for life.
Yeah, it's a 21-day program. And I like that you did that. You chunked it down. So it's like today do this, tomorrow do this, and start noticing those things and stack it instead of it being this huge, overwhelming thing. Right. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I know that. And then binaural, I mentioned I've, dealt with depression and anxiety. Binaural beats saved my butt for anxiety, like getting me, into my parasympathetic nervous system and calming my brain. And I can't imagine how cool it would be to have the binaural beats and the breathing. Like that's got to be next level.
Yes. And those are delivered right when you go through the program. They're at the very end in the resources section, and those will be updated just for this audience. So we built out something really special for everyone.
Yeah. So I don't know how long we'll have this offer up. Josh did a special page for us. I don't want it to be like forever unlimited. So I don't know how long, but no, you don't have to get it this very second. But we'll
leave it up there to whenever is good for you. Okay. But yeah, I definitely don't want this to be something where everyone tries to get into what we have here, because we have something really special here. And this was a really great talk. I'm super appreciative.
Yeah, if it's right, if this will be helpful for you, then there really shouldn't, then nothing will hold you back. If something's holding you back, then maybe you need to breathe. No, I'm just kidding.
But also trusting in intuition too, like trusting if you have that little spark where you're like, I want to try that, just trust that, that it's coming through for a reason.
I think a lot of times we know what we know what we want to do. We know what we should do. We're just scared, and so maybe to help us a little bit, what's the experience of people that come in and go through your program?
On that page, and I believe it's wellnessforce.com/revealed. You just go there now.
Yes.
There's a ton of testimonials there, both from people that are in our world, Erin Smith being one of them. Like she came here, she can attest to this. I took her through a process. She cried as well. So I think that's
she told me it was one of the top 5 transformative experiences of her life.
Wow. That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Huge. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. And then, of course, we have people from across the country that are reporting their own unique experiences where it's like, hey, I was able to actually identify what needed to be changed in my life. A lot of times, Kat, this is a big one. A lot of times what happens is people will do their breath work and they'll start learning how to breathe properly. And all of this stuck crap emotionally, mentally will come up, and it'll actually have the space to be addressed. And we talk about that in the program too. It's like, okay, you have these awarenesses, you have what's going on for you, but what do you actually do with it when it comes up? You know, how do you have the courage to make big life changes when the breath shows you what needs to be changed? And that's also something to really consider here, that a lot of people have been reporting is like, hey, yes, this made me feel good, but it also pointed me in the direction of what I was holding on to that I need to let go of.
Mm. Yeah, it's funny how many times when you finally are relieved of something that you didn't realize you were carrying it, and how much that taxed you until it was gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. And that's a lifelong journey. We just need the right tools.
Yep. And I'm so glad you put them into a system for us. It's not a trick. It's not just like a one-time thing. It's a
No.
system that we can
Yes.
integrate in our lives.
And I want to be honest about that too. Like, it's not just like, you're not just going to buy the program and then be like, all right, I'm done. You actually have to go through it. And so I'm there for you. Like, there's comments, there's interaction. Like, if you have questions, I'm there for you inside of the program. You're not going to be left alone. Like, if you need something, I'm there for you.
Okay, there's a couple of things I want to address really quickly. One is for people who stand, or walk, my work, I have to consciously get up and move around every hour. So for a lot of people, they're standing, they're moving, they're walking. Can they do this while they're standing, moving?
Absolutely. But I would recommend that you do it in a seated or kneeling position so you can ground it in the skills. And then for sure, if you want to do it while you're walking, you can. I just think that it's better to learn in a seated or kneeling first. But yeah, you can, once you learn it, you can take it wherever you want.
Okay, perfect. Second, we just have a quick question.
Hmm.
Went to the site, ready to go. Is there a code they should put in the box, or is that
No
because
code.
you just did a special deal for
Yeah,
us,
no
right?
code. No code at all. You literally just sign up right there. So the program's already discounted, it's already cut. Everything's
Okay.
all added.
And then for people who do want to set up in-person sessions, they just go through the link, because if they get this special discount program you've got for us, which is 197 for the whole
Hmm.
thing,
Hmm. Yep.
and your extra $600 bonuses, they get the link for discounted sessions through there, correct?
All you have to do is message me. There's no special sign up. Once you're in the
Okay.
program, I'll know that you came in because we've set it up to know that this is revealed. And then all
Okay.
you do is just literally write me a message in the program anywhere you'd like and just say, hey, Josh, I'd like to sign up. And then I'll get your email and we'll go from there.
Perfect. Um, and then do you mind hanging in there for just like 3 more minutes of a few
Go for it.
questions? People
Yeah,
have them.
this is great.
So we had someone earlier in the chat talk about masks. They're wearing masks
Mm,
and they're not able to breathe. My suspicion is that I have a friend who's a body language expert, and like
mhm, mhm.
you change when you put a mask on. You like
Yeah,
close it in.
yeah,
I would imagine there that even just diaphragm breathing would be helpful in a mask.
sure.
But do you have
100%.
suggestions for that?
Um, well, I'm not going to tell you to do anything that's against your beliefs, right? I'll just start with
Yeah.
that. So I'm not here. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to offer some guidance if you're interested.
Mhm.
What I would recommend is actually pulling the mask down. It's extremely. I don't want to say impossible, but it is extremely hard to do a full circular breath or do really, really great breath work with a mask on. It's just not possible because, you guys, these masks were designed for surgical processes and for people that are breathing on patients, right? A lot of these masks are not designed for normal, healthy, everyday use.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, we've been taught that they are.
And yes, we will send you an email, follow-up email for those who are on the call. Yeah, I know this whole mask thing,
Yeah.
it's so difficult, but knowing how to breathe, and then when you can take your mask off to get some really good breathing in, is just going to help your body from being, tied up a little bit.
100%.
Question from Scott: in box breathing, do you perform an audible relaxed exhale and hold? Or do you contract the diaphragm for a deeper exhale then hold?
That's great. Some of the some of the science out there about box breathing is that yes, you can do it to really ground yourself in. Like if you're very, very stressed, you can focus on squeezing in your abdominals. That's totally possible. It's really up to you. But I would say for like 99% of people, we don't necessarily want to focus on tensioning the abs because we're really trying to have a soft belly when we do any kind of breath work at all. If you're doing catharsis breathing, that's a different story, right? Because in catharsis breathing, you are trying to tension the abs. We didn't go over that today. What you're going to get from this program is the acute and the meditative, which I believe are 99% of what we need. But yeah, there are people that do become interested. You know, they become inspired to do the more catharsis breathing once they learn about the meditative and the acute.
That's so cool. It's sort of like you have this prescription closet, right? And there's different ways to use this thing called breathing
Yes.
based on what's going on. That's really, really cool. Kelly's asking if this is faith based.
Well, Kelly, I would say whatever faith you believe in, this will bring you closer to it. So I don't think that God is a bearded man in the sky, personally. But I also believe that every religion, every faith, is essentially worshiping or connecting to the same thing. So I'm not here to say that there is one way to worship or one way to believe, but I will say that faith, if you really think about it, faith is moving forward with your eyes closed or eyes open, believing the same thing. And that is that you're supported, you're on the right path, and you're loved. And that is faith. So yeah, the program is faith-based because those are all the things that are going to be supported for you and that'll come up in the program.
That was really a beautiful answer because you
Thank
do
you.
have to have faith. You have to have faith in your innate intelligence and your body and
Yes.
just, knowing and being. So I have a quick I'm going to do a kind of a fire round here for you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
So if I want to breathe to go to sleep at night, what's the best thing to do?
4-second inhale through your nose, 7-second hold, 8-second exhale through your mouth. Do that 4 to 5 times.
Okay, 4 seconds in.
4, 7, 8. 4 in,
4,
7 hold, 8 exhale.
Nice. Okay,
5 times.
next. This is like speed round. Are you ready? Anxiety.
Anxiety, depending on the severity of anxiety, we have different modules in the program. I really like pranayama breathing, breath of fire. It's where you literally just only breathe through your nose. And at the end of it, you do a big inhale and you hold. It's kind of like what therapists used to do. They have people breathe into bags.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Pranayama breathing is the same thing if you're having a panic attack.
Okay.
We go over that in the program.
Blood pressure.
Blood pressure, circular breathing. Circular
Okay.
breathing of any kind without focusing on tension.
Okay.
Circular breathing in the 2-4. So 2-second
Okay.
inhale, 4-second exhale with no pause. That'll drop your blood pressure for sure.
Okay. And then I am gonna do the one. So this is the one that connected us in the first place. Breathing for weight loss.
Ah, yes. So I think if you have a daily practice where before you have your plate of food and instead of just going, like eating your food because you're stressed, literally, it sounds simple, but are you doing it? Take those 6 breaths that we practiced in this call and do that before you eat every single time. Put a little reminder on your phone and be like, hey, it's dinner time, like lunchtime, 6 breaths. It'll take you 30 seconds, if that. Guaranteed you'll eat less food. Like I'm not being woo here. It is woo, but I'm not being woo. Like you do that, you do your 6 circular breaths with a focus on the exhale, and then give thanks for your food, right? You can be faith-based or not. Like literally like thank the food you're about to eat. You're about to eat food
Grateful.
that somebody,
Yeah.
be grateful. So do those 6 circles, draw 6 circles with your breath, and then be grateful, and then eat your food. And just be present with your food. A big one, breathing for weight loss. Don't have your phone next to you when you eat.
Really?
Yes, because if you're breathing, if you're on your phone and you're eating, you're not going to be focused on your breathing. You're going to be focused on your phone. But if you're laughing with friends, normally when we eat, we would talk to friends. So we'd put our fork down, we'd talk, we'd take a big breath, we'd exhale, then we'd eat while they're talking. There's a
The
natural
Italian way.
Italian. I'm half Sicilian. So like, you eat with your hands, you talk with your hands. Like that's how we're meant.
So cool. I'm not gonna thank you for doing that. I'm just gonna go through some of these. I know we have people asking about eczema, diabetes. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and you can finish up here that better oxygenation, better
Yes.
circulation, lower stress helps all health issues. We know that, right? Stress
Sure.
is not good for health
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
Lack of oxygen is not good for health issues. So bringing all that together, I think would
Hmm.
be
Hmm.
helpful. And I'll let you take it from there.
So think of it like this, and I'll answer your question with a question. What is the universe and science and our intuition, like, what is it trying to tell us? It's trying to tell us to slow down. But we literally and figuratively cannot slow down if we don't become friends with our breathing. And it's really like, let that land right now. Like, that's it. That's really hypertension, weight gain, all these things. Like, stress is cumulative. Some stress is really good, like eustress, really good for us.
Mhm.
Distress, not good for us. Not good for us. So if we're in distress, that's chaos trying to seek order. And so we need to
Mm.
have inside of us, the chaos inside of us is trying to seek order. Well, it can't seek order unless it has a fuel supply to have order, and that fuel supply is our breath.
Well said. I think that's a great place to end. Thanks for hanging
All
for an
right. All
extra
right. Thank you for
few
having me. Thanks for all
minutes
these
to
amazing
answer our
questions.
questions. Thanks for teaching us box breathing and circular breathing and where to breathe, and that
Yes.
we have more places in our body to breathe than we thought.
Yes. What a joy. You're a great interviewer too. I loved your questions. I loved the
Oh,
conversation.
thank you. So I just want Israel, if you'll drop the link in one last time for the people who want to go check out what Josh is doing and how to get through the program. It's not for everybody, only for the people who want to do it. But I promise you this, having been connected with Josh and what he does, I've seen a lot of comments about how sincere you are. You are. He is. He really is, has a helping, healing heart for us, and what he's put together. I've seen out there for like bajillions of times more money, or like you get a little bit of it and then they want a really high dollar amount for the rest of what you're offering. And for those of you who can take advantage of it, you're getting the binaural beats breath work that just dropped the album brand new
Yes.
on the waves. So I can't thank you enough on behalf of everybody. Thank you for giving us your time. Congratulations on your baby.
Thank you.
And stay healthy,
I
and
will.
we will be talking soon.
All right. Thanks, Kat.
Thanks
Thanks,
everybody
everyone.
for being on the call.
Okay.
Good night.